Hey everybody, and welcome to 5 Minute Theologian. I'm your host Kyle Bailey, and this show is all about covering popular Bible topics in 5 minutes, expanding your knowledge of Scripture simply and practically. Today we'll be discussing the resurrection of Jesus proven in 5 minutes. If you're new here, consider subscribing. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button and share it with others. Let's get started. Gary Habermas, an American historian and New Testament scholar, puts forward 6 independent pieces of evidence that the vast majority of scholars, even skeptical scholars, agree as being established facts regarding the resurrection of Jesus Christ. These include 1. That Jesus died by crucifixion, 2. That very soon afterwards his followers suddenly and sincerely came to believe that Jesus resurrected from the dead, 3. That their lives were transformed as a result, even to the point of being willing to die specifically for their faith in the resurrection message. 4. That these things were taught very soon after the crucifixion. 5. That James, even Jesus' unbelieving brother, became a Christian due to his own experience that he thought was the resurrected Christ. And finally, 6. That the Christian persecutor, Paul, formerly known as Saul of Tarsus, also became a believer after a similar resurrection experience. These 6 facts directly support the claim that Jesus did rise from the dead. But are there any feasible alternatives in explaining the rise of the world's most influential religion? Unhinged and unrelenting skeptics have proposed a variety of alternative and untenable reasons that the early Christians would come to believe in the resurrection. These proposals include the mass hallucination hypothesis, the elaborate conspiracy hypothesis, and what I call the Jesus didn't really die hypothesis, which even early Roman historians rejected. But what shall we say to the other proposals? Regarding the mass hallucination hypothesis, there are multiple problems. One is the diversity of resurrection appearances. To persuade someone that a mass hallucination occurred, it would be more tenable if the hallucination happened with maybe one group in one location at one time. But Jesus is not only recorded as having appeared to different individuals, but also different groups in different geographical locations under different circumstances. There's also a familial element to this matter. It's well known that the brothers of Jesus, 2 of which wrote letters in the New Testament, did not think that Jesus was anything special prior to his resurrection. However, after the resurrection, they became highly involved leaders in the Christian movement, facing great persecution, ending with James, the brother of Jesus, being killed in Jerusalem. It's one thing to propose that those who already believed in Jesus hallucinated, however strange that may be, but it's an entirely different thing to propose that unbelievers such as the brothers of Jesus would come to a sudden and sincere belief in the resurrection of Christ through hallucinatory means. As it pertains to the elaborate conspiracy hypothesis, we also find many irreconcilable problems. In addition to the fact that there was no material benefit to being an early Christian because you would be persecuted violently and in many instances have your property seized, forensic experts such as Warner Wallace explain that real conspiracies rarely actually succeed. Wallace shows that you need 5 minimum requirements for a successful conspiracy, which are 1. A small number of conspirators. This means preferably no more than 2. In the case of the New Testament, we have a reported 513 witnesses. Number 2, a short conspiracy time span. Keep in mind the apostles preached the resurrection without defecting for upwards of 40 years. Number 3, you need excellent communication. In the New Testament, the apostles spread to many different locations with only unreliable communication methods such as sending letter via horseback. 4, you need strong familial ties. The 513 New Testament resurrection witnesses included the apostles, which were from a variety of familial backgrounds. And 5, you need little to no pressure to confess. The early Christians were severely persecuted until 312 AD when Emperor Constantine converted to the Christian faith. The claims of Christianity have none of these minimum requirements in terms of being able to make the elaborate conspiracy hypothesis tenable. Being that the main proposals from skeptics are found to be left wanting in every way, we can arrive at the realization that even though these alternative explanations could be presented as possible, they cannot be presented as reasonable. The infeasible nature of the alternative explanations to the resurrection count as an additional proof to the credibility of the resurrection. Combine this with the 6 established facts that even skeptical scholars agree with, and you have proof beyond reasonable doubt that Jesus did in fact rise from the dead. I'd like to thank you for watching 5-Minute Theologian. What did you think about this episode? Do you agree that Jesus resurrected from the dead? Tell us your thoughts in the comments, but keep it civil. If you're new here, consider subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and share it with others. You can also find more topics like this at our website, biblicalquestions.net. We'll see you next time. The rise of naturalism in modern times has produced a widespread disbelief in the supernatural. This is because naturalism as a worldview rejects any possibility of the supernatural as a core tenet of their belief system. This means that the naturalists cannot objectively evaluate evidence concerning the resurrection of Jesus because they have already concluded that resurrections are impossible from the start. This prohibits the naturalists from following the evidence wherever it leads. In the late 19th century and early 20th century, a movement to try to compare Christianity to pagan myths that describe dying and rising gods like Osiris, Tammuz, and Adonis, and others arose. Scholars at that time wanted to explain away the resurrection of Jesus by trying to say it was influenced by these ancient pagan myths. Soon after, the movement fell apart within New Testament scholarship. This is mainly because the parallels were shown to be spurious, because in reality these dying and rising gods were merely symbols of the seasonal cycles that ancient people experienced from summer to fall and so forth. In fact, these gods were not dying and rising at all when examined closely. Also, there has been no ability to show a causal connection between these pagan myths and the early disciples who were Jewish. The Jewish disciples were part of a culture that rejected pagan myths, especially in the realm of the disciples in particular, who were portrayed as devout, law-observant Jews in the New Testament.